Hey, good morning. This is LaGuardia Acting Studio, and while we are still under quarantine and I can't hold class in person, I wanted to make a video for my students that I feel will be helpful and relevant. So today we are going to talk about self-taping. Now, self-taping has become a lot more common over the past few years and will continue to be more and more mainstream, eventually at some point overtaking primary auditions. Now, when I say primary auditions, I mean your first audition. Meaning, if, say, 100 people audition for something and they really come down to 5 that they really like. So those 5 will do a callback. And at the callback will be oftentimes the director or the producer, what have you. But for the first audition, which is often run by a casting associate or casting assistant, they're just basically putting people on tape. Okay. Now, it's very time consuming to run an audition. Actors don't always show up. It can be costly. So for the casting director, the self-tape is so much easier and so much more palatable because they do it at their time. They don't feel rushed and they have a better focus on it. Now, I'll be very honest. If 50 people audition, 25 are not good or not right. So for the casting director's point of view, I don't have to waste my time with them. If I see within the first 30 seconds that they're not good, that's it. I move on. They don't have to sit and run an entire audition, making the actor come to New York, making the actor pay for parking, and so on and so forth. So it's very beneficial to the casting director, but let's be honest, it's really beneficial to the actor. Because if you go on an audition and you're nervous and you flub the line, you forget the line, you blank, you can't take that back, and once you mess up, that messes with your head and so on and so forth. So you can, when you're doing a self-tape, you can do 100 takes until you get it right. And the one you get right is the only one they're going to see. So it's super beneficial to the actor. So it used to be where West Coast auditions were really, if they were casting on the East Coast, they'd ask for self-tapes. Or if it's something in Georgia or something where you can't go in person. But now more and more and more, they're just requesting them. It's just a general thing where people will ask for a self-tape, so actors need to know what to do, okay? So let's start off with the basics. They need to see and hear you. And what I mean by that is it's got to look and sound clear. You do not have to go buy a fancy microphone. You do not have to buy extensive lighting. You just want them to be able to see you clearly and hear you clearly, okay? So what equipment do you need? Is it great to have a camera and a tripod? Absolutely. You can get one for not that much money. And considering how often self-tapes are happening, it's really not a bad idea. You do not need a very expensive camera, just something that captures you, okay? No one's looking for, high-def professional quality. It's not necessary. They just need to see who you are. So that's the bottom line with that. As long as the picture is clear. Can you use a cell phone? Absolutely. More and more and more actors do, or they must. So they've become very accustomed to that. But the lighting still has to be good, and the sound has to be clear. You can't be muffled, you can't sound too far away, and things of that nature, okay? Your backdrop is also very important. If you look clearly here, I wouldn't do a self-tape like this, because there's a door, there's a couch, it's distracting. But if I was right behind that clear wall, that solid wall, that can work. You don't need to have a solid wall. If you buy a backdrop, a solid backdrop, nothing fancy, and you drop that, that can work, okay? But you don't want distractions. If you're in a room with fancy things on the wall or it's cluttered, they don't like that, okay? So let's just be clear about this, and I'll reiterate this. If they have a problem with your self-tape, if they have to watch 200 self-tapes, 300 self-tapes, and believe me, that's common. If they don't like it, or if they can't hear it, or they can't see it, they're just going to skip over it. Now, you may think, well, that's not fair, but, welcome to the acting business. Nothing is fair. No one ever said this business was fair. So you've got to give them kind of what they're asking for, okay? They don't want distractions. They just want to see you, okay? So let's go to the acting part. Because someone once said, well, what do you want with a self-tape? They asked the director, what are you looking for in a self-tape? And the first thing they said was, well, good acting. And the acting does have to be strong, which means You have to know exactly who your character is, know exactly what you're talking about, know exactly who you're talking to, know exactly what you want in the scene. Okay? You have to make strong choices, meaning I know what my character's feeling. I know if there's an arc in the scene. I know what my character's thinking in regard to what other people say, and so on and so forth. And especially for film and TV, natural and honest. We don't want to see the acting. We don't want it to be forced. And, you're magnified on a camera. So you don't have to show that you're thinking, you just have to think. You don't have to show that you're feeling, you just have to feel. And the camera will pick it up. Okay? Something else that I kind of learned the hard way is very often I try to give them what I think they want. I think they want it this way, so I'll play it this way. I think they want it that way, so I'll play it that way. I don't know what they want. Nobody knows what they want. Okay, so let's get that clear. Because 9 out of 10 times, they don't know what they want. So you need to show them who you are. You need to show them your choice and your take. Don't give them what you think they want. Give them the way you feel it should be done. The Steve Jobs from Apple said, a lot of times people don't know what you want until you show it to them. I cannot tell you how often that happens in this business. They think they want one thing, but you show them something else and they go, oh, that's better. So give them your interpretation, your take, your choice. Okay? Strong choices, yeah. Still, sometimes people don't know what that means. Don't just read the lines. You can't just say the lines. You have to feel them. You have to know why you're saying them. You got to know who you're saying them to. It's got to be important. All those things have to happen. Okay? Make sure that you don't just stand there reading the lines. And then people, well, does it have to be memorized? Does it have to be? No. Should it be? Of course. And I say this in every video and in every class. If it's memorized, you can live it. Okay, so watch the difference. Watch the difference. Okay, so here's me saying the lines right to the reader. I love you more than anything in my life. Now here's me saying the lines without it being memorized. I love you more than anything in my life. See the difference? How could you compare the two? Okay, so have the script lines down. You can hold it. A lot of times when we do self-tapes at my school, I pin them up so that an actor can look at them when they need them because we all forget. But the self-tape allows you the time to learn them. And yeah, you may only have an hour, a day to learn them, but that's enough time for an actor. That's enough time. I always tell people, say you're working on a TV show and at midnight they send you the updated script, but you start filming at 6 a.m. Well, you're going to learn it. If that's your job, you're going to learn the lines, so learn them for the audition, okay? Very often when doing a self-tape, they give you Slate instructions. And usually the Slate is just, you say your name, or you say your name and your height. They often ask for that, or the name and where you're based. And you don't have to say, hi, I'm based in Monmouth County, New Jersey. You can just say New Jersey, or more often than not, if it's West Coast, you just say I'm based in New York. Because New York and New Jersey are synonymous, so you can just say New York. But when they ask for specific instructions, like we want a full body shot, we want a profile shot, we want one take of an introduction, one take telling us about yourself, give them what they want. Nothing aggravates casting directors more than when they give you specific Slate instructions and you don't follow them because you forgot or because you were negligent or because you didn't feel it was important. Trust me, when you're looking at hundreds of tapes, the person who does it wrong pisses them off and they delete it. What if you were great? Well, they're never going to find that out because the first thing they're going to say is, why didn't they follow the Slate instructions? Or I specifically wrote to do it this way. Why didn't they? It will piss them off and they will delete you. So why do it? Follow the Slate instructions exactly right. Very often they ask you to label the file a certain way. Do it. Actors, sometimes, I don't know if they don't pay attention or they're just flighty, but they'll just submit a tape. And They don't know who you are. They don't know what role it's for. So be very careful with the specifics of the Slate instructions. I can't tell you how many times back in the old day when I would cast things where you have to send your headshot in, I'd say very specifically, please let me know what role you're submitting for. And actors would just constantly throw their headshot in an envelope, no instructions, and it's frustrating. And you don't want to start off on their bad side because you need the job. And hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of actors are applying for the job. And if not you, someone else. So don't annoy them. Don't piss them off. Do the right thing as far as the slate. So your reader. If you're doing a monologue, then you don't obviously need a reader. But the reader should be off camera. Okay, so this is me looking at camera. Okay, so I'm going to look here. That's where my reader will be. The reader will be standing behind the camera, so the camera can see me clearly, but I'm talking to the reader. Okay, reader does their lines off camera. I do my lines to the reader, but so that the camera fully sees my face. I'm not doing the reader over here, because that's profile. I'm not doing the reader over here or up there. I'm putting the reader to the immediate right or left of the camera, okay? And I'm talking directly to them. They are not on camera. Sometimes people say, well, I don't have a reader. Can I just do my lines? I mean, if you were some sort of freak who lived in a sheltered basement and you couldn't have anyone near you, maybe, but I would say don't. It could be a family member. It could be a friend. It doesn't really matter. They don't have to be good actors. And as a matter of fact, you definitely don't want them to overact. They're just there to feed you the lines. They can just say the lines to you and you deliver it back to them. Okay? That's very important. Framing. Most often, this is what they want. They want top of the head to about chest high. Okay, that's pretty much what they're looking for. They may say start with a full body shot, in which case you start with a wide full body shot where you pan up and down, and then come in for the slate, which is usually framed here, and the rest of your scene is framed there. Do you sit or stand? Doesn't really matter. You want to do, I think, what you're more comfortable with. You don't want to be moving around. You don't want to be doing activities. In a real audition, like for major films, major TV shows, they just hit record. They frame you, they hit record. There's no movement. They're not following you. And if you're sitting, they frame you sitting. If you're standing, they frame you standing. So it really comes down to where you're more comfortable. Very often, they're not going to know the difference unless they actually see the chair because of where you're framed. Okay? As far as props go, because people often ask, well, should I use a prop? Can I use a prop? You don't have to. In real auditions, you rarely use a prop. And they say, well, can I actually use my cell phone? Sure. But using a cell phone or just doing this, hey, how are you? It's the same thing. Pen, you don't need an actual pen, can you? Sure. But like if they say, you're a police officer, don't like put a cop hat on or like a badge. You don't need props. And as far as like, well, what about props involved in the scene? Well, if it just says in the scene, they're holding a drink, but the drink has nothing to do with the scene, don't do it. You don't have to hold a fake drink or a real glass for the whole scene. Not necessary. However, if it says, he says a rude comment to her and she throws the drink in his face, then hold a drink. Hold a fake drink and actually throw it in their face. If there's movement involved, like you're being choked or you pull a gun on someone, and it's necessary to the scene, do it. Show it. Will I feel stupid holding my finger out like that? Sure, sometimes, but it's irrelevant because that's what they're expecting. They know they're going to give you a real prop gun. When filming, you don't need it. You don't need it in the audition. Okay? Sometimes you do separate. There are 3 scenes you have to do or 2 scenes. Unless it says make a specific scene, submission for each scene, I think they're expecting it to be on one. So if you know how to edit video, that's great. Then you can mess up and do it that way. But if you can't edit, like me, then you have to kind of be able to do it all in one, which sometimes freaks people out. But look at a real audition. You go in there and they're just like, boom, one after the other. You're going to knock them off. And that's with the nerves of being in front of the casting directors or the director. So depending on what they're looking for and your technical abilities, just follow what they want. Sometimes it'll say the slate is a separate submission from the first scene, is a separate submission from the second scene. So you're submitting 3 separate things. If it does not say that, maybe they don't want all that. They want the slate, the first scene, the second scene to all be continuous. Okay? And you can just walk off, walk on. All right? And when you say your name for the slate, don't throw it away. Go, hi, I'm Joshua Nelson. Or don't do it in character. Like, hi, I'm Joshua Nelson. Just, you do your slate, clear, nice, friendly, because it's the very first thing they see of you. Hi, I'm Joshua Nelson. I'm 5'10". I'm based in New York. And then take a second, not very long, it's film and TV, take a second to get into character, look at the reader, and begin. Okay? When you film and you're done, how do you submit it? Well, very often on Actors Access, they have the EcoCast, which you just upload what you tape onto EcoCast, but you can send it via the WeTransfer app. I use WeTransfer a lot. There's Vimeo. You can put it on a Vimeo app, either with or without a password, depending on what they want. Google Drive, Dropbox. You can use any of those. If you do use something like Dropbox, make sure that it's the link. Don't make it so that a specific email has to do it. Because once it gets confusing and they can't open your files, or you have to join Dropbox to view the files, I'm telling you, they're busy. They've got a lot to do. Once they have to take extra steps, very often they'll just delete it. You want to make these self-tapes look and sound good. You want your acting to be on point. You want to show them you know who this character is, what this character wants. I know my lines. I'm showing you how well I do this. And then you want to submit it to them in the easiest way possible so that they can just open it up and watch it. Okay? You're going against hundreds and hundreds of people. And, you know, if you've ever spoken to someone who's placed ads on Actors Access, if it's for a paying job, it's thousands of submissions. So they don't want to watch thousands of submissions. So as soon as something's wrong, they're happy to move on to the next one. They want you to be right for the part, but people get very picky and particular with submissions. Give them what they want the best way possible, and then go book the job. Cool? Thank you.